So tell me about people. Why is people part of your 4 Ps?
If you have a company, you can't grow a company without people.
Talk to me a little bit about processes and why that's important for our productivity.
Processes, the very foundation is paperless. Everything has got to be in the cloud, not just backed up on a hard drive or on a time capsule from your Mac. It's got to be in the cloud on a server. And that's the first step. The second thing is putting together a process of how you're going to name all your documents, where you're going to put your documents, and who are you going to share your documents with.
And we got to 2 out of the 4 Ps. You got to get the rest from Angela. Angela Proffitt, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Mark?
Angela, I am awesome. I am excellent. We just connected because we were both speaking at PodFest. How was your experience at PodFest this year?
It was absolutely amazing, incredible information and incredible people.
That's really cool. What was your topic about, Angela? What were we talking about at PodFest?
My topic was specifically on building an online course using the Kajabi platform.
Okay, love that. Now, was this your first year speaking at PodFest?
It was. Chris and I connected. We're both a member of EO Entrepreneur Organization, and he was organizing something with one of the gentlemen from Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful,
Ah,
for EO. And I had clicked on his email signature, and I'm like, wait a minute, you do a podcasting expo? Like, I need to be part of this. I didn't even know this existed. And so we got to talking, and he's like, so what are you doing during the pandemic? And I'm like, building online courses, man. And he's like, I need somebody to talk on a platform. And I'm like, I've built on 7 different platforms, but we love Kajabi. He's like, why don't you come on and talk about Kajabi? So that's how it happened.
dig
How
it.
long have you known about Podfest?
I was going to speak last year. I was actually in DC the week before speaking at the Dad 2.0 conference, which is it's a fatherhood conference for digital marketers and creators. And the week I got back, I was invited to go to PodFest, but I just, with all the travel and 2 young kids, it didn't line up. But I would definitely challenge all the listeners today, all the after hours entrepreneurs, all the business unveiled community, go ahead and apply to speak today. There's so many great conferences out there that you can speak at. All you
Yep.
got to do is apply.
Yep.
Yeah, and
They're
if you
awesome.
yeah, and you got to take your shot, right? You get up to bat, you swing it, and you never know what you're going to hit. So one of the things I'd love to talk to you about, Angela, is I was kind of researching for our discussion here, was reinvention. My platform, and I believe very strongly that we live in a very unique time where, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what you went to college for, or school for, or whatever your parents told you had to do, whatever the government, whatever they told you, you can reinvent yourself. So I'm just wanting to hear a little bit
Totally.
about your reinvention story. How did you get started reinventing?
Well, I did what you just said. Like, the parents were like, go to college. I got a degree in psychology. I worked in healthcare, but I got started in the creative community just for fun. My family had a wedding venue for 35 years. So I grew up around that. And then I just started doing it for my parents' church and their friends' kids. And then it's like I blink my eyes and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've had a creative business for like 10 years doing events and weddings and like 250 plus events a year. But if you're not working, you don't make money. And
Right.
so I got really tired. So in about 2013, I started, our town flooded in Nashville in 2010. And so, but we were always paperless. I learned how to be paperless a long time ago, working in healthcare and EMR, electronic medical records. And so once I learned how to be paperless, I would always start paperless companies. And so no one would listen to me back then until they lost everything in the flood. And then I started a productivity company teaching people how to go paperless, put things in the cloud. And really, we've been focused on getting so much out of doing events and going more into the consulting side of hospitality, teaching our strategy and our processes of how to be productive, how to communicate based on psychology. And so I really just, how I've reinvented, because we've done a lot of different things in the past 2 decades, is you got to listen to your audience and what are they asking for in terms of what they need help with. And then if we've been doing it for so many years, why would we not pass that on? And so we've created companies and frameworks around how to help other creatives and entrepreneurs, GSD, that's get shit done.
Love it, love it. And I think it's
Yeah.
gsd.com is your website, or GSD Creative.
Yep.
We'll have links below, of course. But I got to say, I've had a similar experience. Went to college, did everything right, but I just after 10 years in my career, I've been in the insurance industry for a decade. I was like, yeah, this doesn't feel right, right? And I
Yep.
think it's really easy for people to get stuck in that mentality of waking up. You're on this like hamster wheel, right? Um, but we live in this very unique situation, this very unique time where you've got the internet, you've got computers, you have all these
Mhm.
technologies, there's all these resources, so you actually can reinvent yourself. And I heard Gary Vee say something that just knocked my socks off, so to speak. Make create or excuse me, create content for what you want to be known for. It's really that
Yep.
simple. And I think it's really cool how you ended up going paperless. And I'd love to talk about this, right? Because you're big on productivity.
Yep.
Right. I'm with you there. I'm 100% with you there. I'm all about getting as much value for your time as possible. This podcast, for example, we're going to share on both of our shows, being productive,
Yep.
right? So I want to talk about the 4 Ps that
Mhm.
you've come up with. People, processes, productivity, and profit. So tell me about people. Why is people part of your 4 Ps?
Well, first off, anybody that's listening, and if you have a company, you can't grow a company without people. And even with the internet and even with AI and automation and technology and all the tools we have, you still need people, not just any people. You need the right people in
Mhm.
order to really grow your company. And so one thing that we're really big on is using psychology assessments, tests. I don't like to call it a test. I like it to be fun, an activity, but doing some type of a psychology assessment. And there's so many. There's Enneagram, there's True Colors, there's Myers-Briggs, there's so many, but at least land on one where you can pre-qualify people before they actually start to work with you, because you can train and teach so much, but you can't teach passion and you can't teach proactiveness to a certain level. And so, really understanding how someone's brain is wired and what naturally excites them and gets them out of bed every morning, if they're doing something they're passionate about, you're not going to have to work really hard at trying to mold them into something that is never going to work.
Yeah.
And we're all working towards the same goal, which is to take care of the customer. And so, having the right people, there's really 4 personalities. You've got like the planner person, which is like my right hand, who like does all of our calendar and all of our communication, and she loves it. She loves a to-do list. I don't. I'm really good at making them, but I don't like to do them. And then you've got the numbers person and the research person that's like crunching the numbers, making sure that your company's actually making money. Then you've got the customer service piece of the people who their happiness comes from making other people happy. And then you've got the people who are the marketers and the salespeople who are like, that's me. I'm like, whoa, yes, we can do that and that and that. And people are like, but that's a lamp. I'm like, yeah, it's on a table, but we can like suspend it upside down and like hang somebody up there. And the people that are really thinking out of the box, pushing the limits. And then if you have all 4 of those personalities, you don't have blind spots in your company when you have the right people sitting at the table, making sure that your company is headed in the right direction. So that's why it's so important.
Staffing is and probably one of the most difficult things to get right.
Yep.
I'm always looking. That's actually what I spoke at Podfest about, was hiring your rock star virtual assistant. I've got a YouTube video, I think that's got 500,000 views on this topic
Hmm.
also. So I'm big on this. I've never heard the idea of doing this psychology assessment. I'd like to know a little bit more about this, because this is important, because I I definitely am guilty of trying to fit a square peg through a circle hole. It don't work.
Hmm.
It don't
Uh-uh.
it just don't it doesn't work, right? When are you actually giving this psychology assessment? Because when I'm going through applicants for a job, it's gonna be hard for me to have someone sit down for 45 minutes to an hour or longer to fill out an assessment. Are you doing this after you onboard them, before? When do you do this process?
So we do it's part of the application process. And if
Mm,
you can't follow the rules, then you get thrown out.
yeah.
But it's really part of our framework of onboarding. Well, and really with me personally, internally, every single person has to do some type of an internship. So most of the people that we get, they are coming through college, but we do have people that say, I just want to learn, I want to get into the industry, and they'll shadow us for 30 days. And you can really get a feel for somebody, and like if you watch their body language when they really light up. But even before we even take our interns, we have a process, and it's like step 1 is send us your resume. Honestly, I don't care what the resume says. I don't really care what their experience is. I really don't. I can train anybody. But what I care about is an assessment. And there's a few like and there's some easy ones out there. It doesn't take a long time. But if they can't take 20, 30 minutes to run through an assessment, and I'm like, we want to make sure that the positions that we have available are ones that are going to naturally fit with what your passion is. So it's as much as for you as it is for us because we have a really solid, as cheesy as it sounds, like a happy company culture where
Mhm.
like we get each other, we all really respect the different perspectives that are brought to the table. And if you have one sour, what's the saying, egg, it makes everything bad. And so company culture is really important to us. And so the people that do sit down, and you can do a true colors assessment online, it takes about 20 minutes. You can do a discover assessment, you can do an Enneagram assessment. There's a few that we use. And or we ask them, have you ever done an assessment? And if you have, send us your results because you may not need to do one. And so some people have already done some of those, and I can go through and the most frequent is DISC. So people will have done that like through college, and I'll say, "Do you feel like this accurately still fits you?" Because depending on your situation and your environment, you can change. You really can. But I tell people when you sit down and take a psychology assessment, think of what makes you happiest. Take your professional hat off. Take your mom or dad or college student hat off. I want you to just answer honestly because that's how I'm going to find out what drives you, the passion that drives you. So we do it. That's the very first thing. And then the results that we get, we'll sit down and look through. And sometimes I look back at their resume, but typically in the first few days of working around someone, you can really watch their body language and see how they light up, which then helps us figure out like where they going to be the best fit.
So
And
wait,
we,
I want to. There's a couple things I think are really interesting here because I
mhm,
want to contextualize this. Right, my
yeah,
my team is comprised primarily of virtual assistants. Right,
me
people
too.
from all
Yep.
over. Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Me
I
too, all over
as
the world.
yeah. So when it comes to different things like internships, are you bringing in interns from colleges or from still all over the world?
It's still all over the world. We actually our last 3 interns were all virtual, pretty much because of the
Okay.
pandemic. So,
So
we
how do
get them
you
every 8 weeks.
I love this. I love this because this is actually really interesting. I'm going through a staffing shift right now. I'm hiring one full
Mhm,
timer, but I'm thinking, you know what if this person doesn't work out? What the heck? I don't want to go back to the well again. I want to have backups, right? We're talking about saving time. We're talking about productivity here with Angela Profit, right?
mhm,
So how does this onboarding internship thing look for you at your company, Angela? Because onboarding is a very time consuming thing. How does this
mhm.
look when you're setting up these internships with these people?
Yeah, and most of we have a couple of VAs that we work with in the Philippines,
Mhm.
and I will say the biggest struggle because there's a lot of my friends that are in EO, they all own companies, they're super busy executives, and they're like, "I tried the VA thing, it just didn't work." And I'm like, "Well, time out. How much time did you dedicate to onboarding the person, and did you ask them how they like to learn?" And that's the
Mhm.
key is we've got everything in video libraries, we've got everything in a Google Doc and a policy manual and SOP manual. But the most important thing, and we give all that to them, but we want them to come in and shadow. And even though there's like a time difference, like Philippines right now is 13 hours ahead, but the first 2 weeks, I really need them to kind of stay up all night. And I tell them that up front, like, listen, you're gonna have to come in, shadow some of our meetings, come in our Zooms, and we do give them a lot of video content. But then we spend one entire, well, I don't, my assistant does, spends an entire day with them getting all the apps set up and then going through the process manual of saying, like, this is how you do this. This is how you set up your email. These are scripts that we've already outlined for things. Here's your job. Here's what you need to do each day. We use an app called Todoist, and a lot of the apps we use are free. But then even the platforms that we pay 30, 40, $50 a month, we have affiliate deals with them. And so we're getting the money back anyway.
Mhm.
People are like, God, how many softwares do you use? I'm like, over 30 a month. But that saves me so much money and so much time because I'm eliminating human error by making sure that we have a to-do list. The key is always tag a deadline and then you can always move it. The other huge key is keeping an open door for communication. And so we use Marco Polo, which is a free video texting app. They have a paid version too. And so I always want my VAs to feel as though they can come to me, even though I am freaking busy, and they can go to my assistant. But we have learned through onboarding all these people all over the world, there's
Mhm.
some people that naturally love to teach. And there's some people that don't. And you know what? That's okay. I love to teach. I love to train. And so every Monday night, I train VAs. I meet with them at least once an hour, and I give time and dedicate time, because if I don't show that I care what they're doing for our clients and my company, why would they care? So you're going to get out what you put in, and an hour a week for me is nothing for the amount of work and the output that they're doing for my company and for our clients.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, that's the goal. That's the key of productivity is spending time now to save yourself many, many hours in the future, right? And bringing on a VA or team members is great. I'm totally on board with you with trying to. So this is one of the first things I recommend to anyone that comes to me and says, "Hey, Mark, how can I have a more efficient podcast? How can my show be more productive? How do you handle all these different steps?" First, you got to write down a list of all the steps in your process, right? You got to do that. There's your standard operating procedures, like you said, and then create the videos to supplement that. I'm starting to, I'm getting to this point in my business where I'm starting to onboard enough people that I'm looking at doing weekly like group meetings or weekly team meetings to get everyone on the same
Yep.
page. How often are you doing weekly meetings, or how often are you doing weekly? How often are you doing these
Usually
meetings?
we usually weekly.
Mhm. And it's
Yeah.
mandatory all team members are joining at the same time.
Oh, yes. Yes, you have to. Like, it's on the calendar. Like, if you
Yeah.
join it, I mean, our calendar books out right now. I mean, we're booking it a month and a half. Like, once someone comes in, we like go ahead and block all the time on the calendar, because then time gets away and then it just never happens.
Mm.
And things happen, like if someone's dog dies or their mom dies, and like I'm not being funny, like this has happened to some of our team members recently. I mean, we lost some people during COVID of their parents and their grandparents, and it's like, listen, life happens, shit happens, but we record everything, so then they can always go back and like watch the recording and make sure that they're caught up, and then anything that they have to do or clarify on their to-do list, again, they have the video, and then we put it on their to-do list in their app. Like each team member has their own folder.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that makes sense too. So we've talked a lot about people. I want to talk about
Mhm.
processes, systems, how can we
Mhm.
actually make this thing scale out, right? So talk to me a little bit about what processes means. It's part of our 4 Ps here. Talk to me a little bit about processes and why that's important for our productivity.
So for us, processes, the very foundation is paperless. Everything has got to be in the cloud,
Mhm.
not just backed up on a hard drive or on a time capsule from your Mac. It's got to be in the cloud on a server. And that's the first step. The second thing is putting together a process of how you're going to name all your documents, where you're going to put your documents, and who are you going to share your documents with. Are they going to have viewing access, or are they going to have editing access? So, for example, years ago, I had a coach who said, okay, you use Dropbox and you use Google Drive. Why do you use both?
Mm.
And so many years ago, I was a beta Dropbox user many years ago when it first came out. And I had a client in Hawaii. I had a mom in another country, and I was in Nashville, Tennessee. And we're all OCD, like hitting save 100 times. And we had an 8-hour meeting, a strategy meeting, and then it saved nothing. Dropbox got confused. Now they've updated it a lot since then, but we have since made it a standard thing in our company. If it's just like a quote, like a vendor quote or an image or something, that we always rename everything, and we have version. It's like version 1, version 2, version 3, because the client wants to go back sometimes and they'll change their mind a lot, which is fine.
Yep.
But we want to make sure that we are providing a safe, secure place to put all of their information. And then we have a naming mechanism. And then for Google Drive, I'm like, get Word and Excel and PowerPoint off your computers. I'm like, if I see it in your doc when you share your screen, you're dead. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, don't use that. But I call it potty train your brain, because I like to be funny, because everyone can think of pot, whether you have kids, you've had pets, anybody knows how potty training is. And so it's like, we're going to potty train your brain. You're going to start all your documents in Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, and then it's automatically saved. It's automatically in their folder on the server.
Mm.
So all of my team has access to it. So if someone's out, we can go back to that client's folder and see where things left off. And the client, people think I'm crazy for this, but we share all that with the client. We're like, here's your 2 folders. You have access to everything. 90% of our clients never look at it because they're like, okay, what do you need me to do? But then we have those type A clients that have a hard time giving up accountability, and they want to see what the heck's going on and they want to know what's going on. So it really depends on, like, again, going back to personality and psychology and understanding what the client's needs are too. It's kind of like a security blanket. So
Yeah.
it seems so simple, but we also were able to decrease our emails by like 300 a day. We tracked it years ago just for fun. It's like, okay, if we potty train people to use Dropbox and use Google Drive, and there's all kinds of other things like there's Salesforce, there's CRMs. I mean, we use Infusionsoft, which is now Keep. There's all these other internal things that you can use. And we do have some of those systems, but for our clients, they have to feel comfortable and confident. Everyone's heard of Gmail. I don't care where you live in the world, everybody knows Google. And they think they don't have a Google Drive. I'm like, but you have a Gmail email. So you have a Google Drive. You just have never used it before. And pretty much everyone's familiar with Dropbox. So you've got to do what's going to be comfortable internally as well as externally to make sure that it's working on the productivity side.
Yeah, 100%. Everything in the cloud. Love that. And that's been a big thing for me and my team as well. And then also and this is a difficult thing, right? It's amalgamous almost. Putting together all of your files, the renaming and keeping your entire team on board is certainly difficult. I was also using Dropbox and Google, but I'm just using solely Google Drive right now because it's like
Mhm.
a fraction of the cost. I don't even know why people use Dropbox anymore because it's like 10x the cost of the Google Drive. I just don't know. Maybe they've already got all their systems integrated there, which is one of the reasons why you really want to be working and learning on podcasts like this so you can kind of avoid these traps, these pitfalls of bad programs. I shouldn't say bad programs, but maybe slightly less efficient.
Outdated. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I'm so we're here. I want to ask you real quick, Angela, what are your top 3 softwares for business owners right now? Top 3 softwares. What do you like?
Oh my gosh, like there's so many.
If
Let's
I
see.
said you
I'm
got to
like,
shut it down, you can only have 3 softwares for your business. What would be the 3 that you'd go with?
well, Google Drive
Yep.
would, I mean, 100%. And I'll tell you, the only reason that we like Dropbox is a lot of the projects we work on are image heavy. And it's one simple little thing that you can't do in Google Drive. You can't take 3 fingers on a Mac and drag it over to our design program. Now, if it's in
Mhm.
Dropbox, you can take 3 fingers, drag it in the design program, and it's done. So for me, it's like if I have to click more than twice or drag more than twice, like I'm not doing it. So that's
Sure.
probably the real reason that we still use it. But if I had to say three, I would say definitely Google Drive. And then I would also say Loom, which
Mhm.
is a software. It's also through Google, but you record your screen, and then that's how we build all these video libraries for people. We also do it for our clients. And I used to use QuickTime, but then you have to worry about where am I going to store the video? Do I have to put it on the back end of Vimeo? Do I have to put it on YouTube? But then it's private, and then that hurts the back end of my YouTube stuff. So Loom is easy. So I would say we probably use Loom every single day.
Mhm.
And then the third thing I would say is definitely Marco Polo, because it is a it takes away all of the miscommunication. It really does. Because an email or a text or something in Slack can be so misinterpreted based on what people are feeling or seeing at the time. So I would definitely, like, I can't live without those 3 things, or I can't do business without those 3 things. I could live without them, but to run a business, I'm like, I need to communicate with my people.
Well, that's what it's all about. It's about communication, and that's the key to efficiency. Is how can we be communicating better? Slack is a platform that I love. Love Slack. It makes it really easy for me to communicate with my team. I was playing with Trello for a while. I haven't
Yeah.
been is big
I
on
don't
that.
love it.
Yeah, I don't love it either, but I do feel like there is a bit of a gap in the systems in again communication, making sure that my video editor knows okay, video's up, and that my social media poster knows, okay, the videos are done. And then my podcast booker knows, okay, that all the content's done. I got to send the packet to the guest, right? So I'm trying to find a good way of doing that. I'm curious, what are you doing for
Yeah.
inter office communication there?
So I can tell you, like, some of the things that you were just saying, like, we use Infusionsoft. My
Mhm.
team calls it Confusionsoft, but we've been in bed with them for almost a decade. I'm like, and I know they rebranded to Keep. I'm like, get over it. We're not changing. Like, we got way too many tags and way too much systems in there. And like all the funnels are hooked up to so many different landing pages. But how we've automated some of those things, if we have set up funnels within our CRM, and it doesn't have to be that. Like, there's lots of different platforms out there that can help you set up automation. And so from podcasting, I'll just take that for example. If someone fills out the guest form or the sponsor form, there that's going to go into and it's going to send a trigger tag, and then that trigger tag is going to send an email, and then it'll say, thank you, blah 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 blah. If you want the packet, if you want this, click here. Everything we I'm big on owning all of my content because many years ago when this thing called Facebook started to allow businesses to do all this stuff through Facebook. And then they changed a few things one day. And I realized Facebook owned everything and I lost a bunch of stuff, like hundreds of speaker reviews. And my web guy was like, "Oh, we didn't back it up on, and we didn't put it on your blog. And I'm so sorry." And I'm not a crier. I'm like, "Oh, everything happens for a reason." But that hurt. But I'm
Mm.
glad it happened when it did because I'm like, never again. So I'm really big of owning everything ourselves. So everything goes on the back end of WordPress. Like we have a back end that you can only get to, like if we send you a link, and all of our packets, our media packet, our podcast packet, our sponsorship packet, all of the stuff is on the back end. And then we link it in our automation. And so and we're also tracking it. So we track everything. So when you click it, it shows that on the back end, it's called Pretty Links. It's a plugin to WordPress. So you can do special links for everything that you're doing. And then that way it removes this whole back and forth. And then, of
Yeah.
course, we use Calendly and we
Yep.
say, if you want to book this time. And sometimes, like, even with us, like our right hands were involved, because it's like sometimes I'm like, hey, I really want to do this and this. I'm like, let's shift some things around. But 90% of the time, we've worked really hard to set up the automation, not at all to replace a human, okay? But to elevate customer service for faster responses and just to expedite things. Because if we didn't have that automation, the email would come into Amanda. Amanda would have to go to the back end, copy the link, paste it over to the person. It's like I'm all about how can we eliminate the back and forthness? Like,
Mm.
how can we just give everybody all the information up front? And then, of course, I do it like you, I do a ton of video. And then we use Otter or rev.com, and depending on what we're doing it for, and everything is transcribed. And then
Mhm.
that also is like all done through our blog. So once you have this mentality of like, okay, everything needs to go in one place and it needs to be named appropriately or tracked appropriately. And once you get on that wash, rinse, repeat system, it's kind of like second nature. Like you just know to start doing that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you on all of this and using the systems to supplement and automate. Because the cool thing about systems is
Yes.
I don't want to say they always work, but there's something about setting up a system the right way, and then exactly what the result is going to be. I want to hear your thoughts on Calendly actually, because I love Calendly.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But I've been in a lot of podcast rooms on Clubhouse, and there's a lot of people that hate getting Calendly links to schedule. Do you have thoughts on this?
I do. In fact, before I came and talked to you, I was doing a live with two of my team members. And one of our team members, she's like, "Why do you like Calendly so much?" Like, I hate it. It's double booked and overbooked. And I'm like, hold on, time out. First off, and I say this with love, it is user error. Like, because people are too busy and they're halfway paying attention. And there are a few things from a setup perspective that you just have to know what you're doing. And she's like, "Well, I talked to Calendly support and they walked me through it and it's set up correctly on Calendly's end." And that's the key word. What people don't understand is the two systems have to talk to each other.
Mhm.
And so what has happened recently, because when people's stuff breaks, it's like we're the IT people, which is fine. I'm like, you could just call Apple, but it's okay. I love it that people think of us. It's like I'm over here fixing people's iPhones. It's all good. But when iOS has an update or Calendly has an update, when anything has an update, you have to understand things are going to break. Technology is going to break. It's going to come unhooked. And you've got to get into this mindset of checking. So for us, years ago, our intake form, and I was so busy, I wasn't really paying attention. And one of my girls that worked for me, she's like, "So what's our calendar looking like for the next quarter?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I haven't really looked ahead." This is what taught us to look 6 months ahead of like what's in our pipeline. And she's like, "We haven't gotten any intake forms." I'm like, "What?"
Mm.
Our system came unhooked in Infusionsoft because of an update, and like I didn't even know it. So the first of every month, one of our team members goes on our website and fills out our forms to make sure they're working correctly.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
that's
smart.
just one thing, but you have to make sure it's working correctly. So as I dug into it, there's two layers here. The iOS update unhooked something, and because she uses iCal, which is what we use. So we have iCal, we use Google Calendar, but it integrates with iCal. And then we also use Zoho. We have a Zoho calendar that also plugs into iCal. So I tell you this because when people are like, "Oh my god, this is so complicated," I'm like, "If I can get my stuff to work with Calendly, so can you." But it's what system are you plugging into, and is that working and talking to Calendly? So that's the first layer of making sure both ends are talking to each other. The next thing that I guess we do it differently from what I'm hearing is that I only have certain days that are Calendly days for me.
Mhm.
So we have a calendar that is powered through iCloud because I'm all like Apple stuff. We don't even run that through Google. We connected iCal, that one calendar. I have 9 different calendars. It looks like a Christmas tree over here. But yellow is the Calendly calendar. And we only do either a half day a week and then a full day a month with Calendly links. And then we only link those links to those dates. That way, if you tried to put Calendly into all my calendars and pull and see everything that's happening, I don't think it would crash. It wouldn't work. And so if you can really set aside specific dates in your Google Calendar or your iCalendar or your Zoho calendar and hook those dates up to Calendly, we block those whole dates. And then on the back end of Calendly, they're all segmented out in like 30 minutes with a 15-second buffer. So when someone goes and books, it shows up on my calendar yellow, which tells me tomorrow's a Calendly day. But internally, we have blocked that entire day as a Calendly day because if you start to hook Calendly up to 2 and 3 different systems, it's probably not going to work. Does that make sense? Like making sure that
Well, yeah, the more
you book
systems you
specific days?
yeah, the more systems you integrate, the more complicated it gets. But one of the things you
Yes.
said, Angela, that I love, and this is something I picked up from Evan Carmichael when he came on the
Mhm.
show, is theme days. You know, you theme out your days because
Yes.
A, it makes your scheduling more simple, but also by having theme days, you can wake up with a certain state of mind. You know, okay, this is my day to do interviews. This is my day to be public facing, like I'll have a public facing. This is my family day. This is my business administration day. This is my finance day. And when you set that up, you can kind of put your mind in that right state of mind. To repeat the same phrase again,
Yes.
but what also I think is really important about this, from one of the challenges that I'm having in my business now, is I'm being pulled in all these different directions all the time. And it's so
Yep.
hard. I'm sitting down with my virtual assistant, and then, okay, wait, I got to post my YouTube video. And then that's another that tip about having a specific date set for these are my podcast days. This is my Calendly day. I love that, Angela. That's brilliant.
That's my life.
It's
Like, it's so and it's funny because, like, as a person, I have ADHD and I'm like, "Squirrel, squirrel, shiny." But over the years, I've learned, like, I'm a potty trained, like, ADHD person, but I use it as a superpower, but whatever my calendar says, that's what exactly what you said.
Hmm.
I don't look at it until midnight. That my mom's like, "What do you have to do tomorrow?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'll look at it when I, like, jump in right before I jump in bed, I'll look at my calendar and be like, "What time do I gotta start tomorrow, and what am I doing?" But, like, I'm not worried about ahead of time, but if you batch your days,
Hmm.
exactly what you said, then I find myself to be so much more present, 100%, and I'm not worried about everything else going on around me, and we do the same thing for client work. Now, I will say, if someone's dying or something's on fire or there's a tragedy or there's something major, okay, like text me. But if you call me, I'm not going to answer my phone ever unless it's on my calendar. I don't. And every client knows that. My family knows that. I'll have my own brother, he's like, "Hey, when can you call me?" Because he knows I'm not gonna answer the phone because I just don't operate like that. I need to be present because if I hear the phone, all my notifications are turned off because then I can't keep my train of thought,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
always
not doing
bleeping at us, right?
service.
It's
Yes.
it's so
So
I'm sorry, it's just so funny that you say this because I feel like it's a joke around me when I'm like, "Just email me, just send me an email," or just,
mhm,
put it on my calendar, right? Because you're
yep,
right, it's always bleeping at us.
yep.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Do people make fun of you for that? My staff always makes fun of me for
Oh
just
my
send me an
gosh,
email.
yes, but let me tell you something about that. So then, like, when they go and like, one of my girls just went on a four-day vacation with her family, and she's like, "Oh my god, you would not believe, like, all my cousin's computer, like, she has all these tabs pulled up," and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like, they start to see how inefficient other people in everyday life are running. I mean,
Mm,
I even took my mom was head of the funeral committee on the Catholic diocese, so when people pass away, they have, like, these casserole text message it's crazy. I'm like, "What? You have to call 36 people? A call chain? What?" I'm like, "No, we'll set up a Google sheet, put all the ladies' names in there. We'll set up everybody's notifications, and you all can comment in Google Drive, so in Google Sheets, so the emails will stop, the phone calls will stop, the text messages will stop. Now, people are still gonna do it, but then you're not gonna answer their question. You're gonna potty train them and say, it's in the Google sheet."
right.
And you can text them and call them back, but you've gotta follow your process.
Mm,
And then if you once you have a process and you start to do I mean, even when I am not following it, some of my girls, they're like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing like when the pandemic started, I was like, shit, we got to do this. They're like, nope, let's sit down. I mean, they keep me in check too. But I leave that door open. You've got to have accountability everywhere that you look, and we
mm,
help each other grow. But you're never to me, I'm like, I can't ever get anything done. And I'm over here like building budgets for people. And if I'm, if you're dealing with people's money, millions of dollars, moving it around, like I can't be distracted. And so they totally make fun of me, but there's times where they really appreciate it and they're
yeah,
like, "Thank you for showing me how
yeah,
to all these shortcuts," because they realize when they get around other people how inefficient they are.
yeah, and it's hard, I think, to put in perspective how difficult it is to be an entrepreneur, how difficult it is to manage all these responsibilities. I was telling my wife the other day, there's not a day goes by that I'm not putting out 5, 6 to 10. It's like every single person in my life needs something from me every day. And
Uh-huh.
it's so hard to meet those responsibilities. I actually got a free video on that. Isn't that right, Angela?
Yeah, you can go to gsdsecrets.com. We've got a bunch of free videos there and just lots of free content like on podcasts and YouTube. And yeah, we love to help people become more productive.
Love it. So before I let you go here, Angela, and before everyone goes to gsdsecrets.com, I got a couple rapid fires here for you. Ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. For you, where is the best place to be creative? Where are you most creative?
I'm the most creative at Las Ventanas in Cabo, Mexico.
I could be creative there too. I'll be okay.
Yep.
What is a must-have subscription in your life? Must have.
Oh my gosh, there's so many apps. I would say Vlog Easy is my favorite subscription because it edits out all the quiet moments in my videos. It's
Ooh,
AI. It's
vlog,
awesome.
vlog easy. I like that. Descript is another one I
Mhm.
heard this week that's really good for editing.
Ooh,
If you could only have,
yeah.
yeah, if you only had one app on your phone, what app would you have?
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo. We've been going back to that Marco Polo. I'm gonna have to check that out. I
Mhm.
remember playing it in the pool, but okay, I digress. Final question here for you, Angela. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what would you say?
Sleep and
Ooh,
be present. Like, I never realized what be present meant. My dad would say, "Put that GD phone down. We're having family Sunday dinner." And you don't appreciate it till they're gone. So
mm,
just I would have told myself, like, quit being a workaholic and just sleep is important for your health to take fundamental part of being a human being and just be present. If your calendar says that you're at family dinner, you're at family dinner. Leave your
mm.
phone in the car. It's okay. It'll be there when it's ready for you.
We could do a whole podcast on that alone. But Angela,
Yep.
love it. Thanks so much for joining the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. You don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.